Hello and welcome to another episode of Send Them Off. We are doing a very special episode, as you can probably tell. I'm Devin Reeder, and here I have my compatriot, Tom, live from Serbia, 6 hours
Live
later.
from Serbia.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
we're,
only
we're
9:30 here. We could have been doing this a lot worse.
yeah, but we're gonna. This is gonna be a test run. We're gonna see how this goes, but this should be at least entertaining.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I can't wait. This is going to be fantastically awkward
All right.
and full of delays.
So tell me, Tom, just to start off, since I mentioned you were in Serbia, have you been able to adjust to life there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm living in not like a small city, but I'm living in a city that's kind of compact, at least where we are. Like, I'm currently where we stay is in city center, so everything's kind of easy for me to get, so it's not that bad.
All right, all right. Watch much football, as they call it.
Yeah, actually, the TV service here for football is a lot better. I pretty much
Wait,
there's a game on like all the time, except for
really?
the Champions League. I can't watch that.
So you watch everything but the Champions League for the most part thus far.
Yeah, there's a lot of Turkish league though, which is a bit weird. There's no
All right,
Serbian games.
all right. Ironic. All right, so I guess we'll just go ahead and jump into it. Try to get past this awkward phase of doing a Skype call to talk about soccer. All right. So recently, Champions League has started up again, right? Finally. Thankfully, we've been looking at the ties. We'd actually talked about it in our last episode when we weren't sure when we would do another. And so
Way back.
way back 2-3 months ago now, just such a long time ago. So they finally happened. We got through the first leg of all of them, correct? Yes, because they restart next week.
Yep.
Yep. So just what are your overall thoughts? Are there any surprises on your part of like any shocking results that you didn't see coming, or is everything kind of gone to plan?
Okay, for me, I would say that there are like three main surprises here, and they're kind of different levels of surprises, which is that makes it really interesting. For me, Liverpool coming out and smashing Porto, right? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that was unexpected. I expected Liverpool with their attacking prowess to have no problems in this tie, but I expected maybe 5-2 on aggregate, given
Not
Liverpool's defense is not
not
great.
5-0
Not
in
5-0. Yeah.
in Porto, like in their stadium
Yeah.
at home for first leg. Got you.
And then the second biggest surprise for me is probably Real Madrid beating PSG 3-1, specifically not by just one goal.
Right.
Because I get there at home and they're at the Bernabeu, tough place to play. But it surprised given how Real Madrid was kind of coming into this. Like they had gotten better since the last time we saw them in the Champions League,
Right.
which was really surprising. And especially, I'll be the first one to admit I kind of had this all wrong. I had PSG to win all of this, and I'm very unsure about that now. I think PSG is one or two key pieces away from being there now. After watching this, because this was the first time we've really seen them, with especially having Neymar and Mbappe and all them, play like a really big team.
Right.
Like they don't have that competition in Ligue 1. And then
Why are you sleeping on like Lyon and Marseille like that? Didn't you?
I mean, Lyon and Marseille aren't great anymore. They got rid of all their big talents have
Yeah,
gone away.
I know.
Except for two that went to the Premier League and came back. Well, actually, Depay didn't come back, but being Depay and Payet.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
between those two clubs, respectively. Then the third surprise for me in the Champions League, and probably just like a kind of funny one at this point, is Shakhtar actually winning against Roma. Granted, they're at home, and the Ukraine is not an easy place to play.
Right.
But I think, at least in terms of that tie, Roma, I'll think they turned it around. They got an away goal. They only lost by one goal. I think they'll turn it around, but I was still surprising to me to see Shakhtar win that, especially when Roma came out of one of the toughest groups.
Yeah, yeah. Beating out Atletico just to advance to knockout stages. That's true. So I guess then now that we've kind of talked about some of the surprises, what are the ties that you think are pretty much done and dusted at this point? We already mentioned Porto in Portugal and Liverpool. At 5-0 aggregate, even Liverpool seems hard pressed to find enough holes in their defense to leak that many at home in the second leg. So
I mean, there's a lot of holes in that defense, but
I mean,
I
it
think
still seems like a tall order to
yeah.
mess up 6 times, 5 times. You know what I'm saying? And not score a goal. It just seems really
Yeah,
improbable.
especially their going forward is way too good to not get at least one at
Right.
Anfield,
Yeah.
which would make Porto need at least 6, which that's not going to happen.
Right. So,
So yeah, definitely that. Bayern pretty
oh,
much through.
poor,
Sorry,
poor.
Besiktas, but 5-0 again. Good for Bayern. Like Bayern showing that even though like they're not stumbling in the league or anything, but even though they don't feel like the Bayern that they were, 2-3 years ago, they don't feel as intimidating. They very much still have the star power, and they very much are still that good of a team. And I think maybe I don't even know if they'll score in the second leg, just because I think they'll play such a weakened team. Like I feel like they won't even. It'll be almost similar to Arsenal yesterday,
Yeah.
almost lose, almost completely bottling it because they played
Holding
incredibly
and
weak 11.
Chambers
Yeah,
as your
yeah.
2 central back. Yeah. No, I actually did watch that one. That was poor is a word I would use, but so we kind of we you were just talking about the Besiktas and Bayern tie. I feel bad for Besiktas having done so well, unbeaten in the group stages, right? And like so just
And making the knockout stage for the first time in their history too.
right. So like, and then they got a red card early on in the game. Like that just was probably one of the worst things that could have happened. Obviously, we can always catastrophize from there, but to get a red card early in the game against a team like Bayern, who is possession based anyway, just kind of smells trouble for you.
Yeah, I mean, we saw over the weekend how devastating a red card can be for any kind of team. I mean, City losing to Wigan,
Yeah.
like that was actually early in the week, not the weekend, but it still
Yeah.
holds true. Like that Fabian Delph red card, that completely changed the game around. And Will Griggs on fire comes through with Wigan's only shot on goal for the entire game, beating City.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting
but in the
stat.
Champions League, City not a problem. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention something real quick, even though this doesn't have to do with the Champions League directly. Happened to see a stat. Since 2013, the top wins against Manchester City are, I think, 6 by Liverpool, 5 by Chelsea or Arsenal. Chelsea and Arsenal, I think, are somewhere in 5 and 4, if I believe. And then Wigan has 3 wins against Manchester City since 2013. As many wins as Manchester United has against Man City in that same time span. So
Yeah,
and among other teams that should be doing better. So it's not just you guys, but I just happened to see that
yeah.
stat and thought that was
Yeah,
hilarious.
Wigan, a League One team.
Is
Granted, they
man
were in the Championship in 13 and got relegated since then. But yeah, because the first of those wins, I'm guessing, is the FA Cup final in 2013, where Wigan was the surprise, champions. But
yeah.
it's
It's
remarkable how one competition team could be so good, and another one they could be so terrible.
I
Napoli.
just I just laugh at the fact that Manchester City's Achilles heel outside of the Big Six is Wigan.
Is Will Grigg.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but
He
I
has
guess
more goals in the FA Cup than anyone else right now.
he can't be stopped. I guess when you're feeling
He's
it,
on
you're feeling
fire.
it. Yeah, he is on fire. All right, so kind of turning back to the Champions League, we were just discussing legs that are pretty much done and dusted, and Manchester City's kind of feels like one that is, I mean, all but over. You 4-0, right, away, if I remember correctly, right? They were not at the Etihad. So
To be honest, it didn't matter that much to me. Once you see the score line, it doesn't matter where they are.
I'm just
I
saying,
mean,
like, it just adds to that feeling of like there's no way that there's anything that can be done
yeah.
about it.
And poor Basel.
Yeah,
It's
No,
the
it
same.
was.
It's
It
like
was.
the
It
Basel
was.
story. They do every time they get through. They get a big team, and they're just not quite good enough. And it's like they really do the best they can. So like I always want to like kind of shout out Basel and teams like Basel, or those or like Besiktas in this case. You know, the smaller league teams that go through to the knockout rounds and kind of just they get outmatched.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I do remember now specifically it was in Basel because I had a friend that texted me and said there was a massacre occurring in Switzerland, and I forgot that Basel was in Switzerland. And I got really concerned about the political
Sure.
state of Switzerland, only to find out Manchester City was running away with it. So that was an embarrassing moment for me. But
Hey, at least it wasn't as bad as a massacre as the one in Belo Horizonte in Brazil. So
that's
7-1.
yeah, that's some people would be upset by that, Tom. Some people, not me, but some people. So, are there any other ties that you can think of that just maybe aren't as major? Those are the main blowouts, but are there any ties that you can think of that you think, just given the circumstance and the score line of them, and maybe how those teams are faring, that there's no way back for a lot of these teams?
The most of them, three of the other five are draws, so we can't really say much in that regard. Real Madrid, I'll say only, but only a 2 goal advantage over PSG. But PSG has an away goal, which I think is very big in that tie. So I think PSG is definitely still in it. So I don't think that one's done and dusted. And even though I definitely would, I'm putting Roma forward to come back from being 1 goal down again with an away goal. Because they're behind, I can't say that one's done and dusted. So I don't think from here on out the other five are anything to really contend,
Mm-hmm.
or I mean to like call straight away. I think they're all going to be pretty interesting. And the one individual that has caught my eye, which is not Sevilla versus Man U, because I think we're going to get another kind of crappy game the second time around. I think it's going to be more of the same and possibly danger for United, but we'll get to that in
Yeah.
a little bit. The tie I'm really watching for here now is Juventus Tottenham. I think
Yeah,
that's going to be barnstormer.
Yeah, I was actually just about to bring that up. Like, Tottenham goes in winning the group of, I mean, I guess we would call that the group of death for the Champions League this year, because they were with Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, and of course Borussia Dortmund hasn't been as good this year, and we'll probably talk a little bit about the Europa League and their results, and they have improved, but and Real Madrid not playing up to their standards really. But needless to say, they still got through, only drawing one of the 6 games, winning the other 5, I believe, or maybe it was they won at least 4 of the 6 games. So it was impressive.
Yeah, because once they got through, they kind of backed off. So
Yeah, but it was still really impressive nonetheless, and they survived a disastrous start to that Juventus, the first leg in Juventus nonetheless. You know, in the second minute, was it a pen or was it just a poor goal? One of them was a
I
pen.
mean, again, I can't watch the UCL
Yeah.
here, and they don't
Anyway.
even make Fox Sports doesn't even make the highlight videos available in Serbia. So
Oh wow.
I have to go to Reddit for my highlights. But so
Well,
I don't remember every goal in the Champions
yeah.
League
Well,
specifically right
I'll
now.
try to do a quick recap. There were 2 goals scored in the second and ninth minute by Juventus. One of them was a pen. One of them was from a free kick. It was just a poor challenge by Trippier on to give up the pen, and then it was just a really bad marking on the free kick that allowed Higuain to score a second one. But I mean, to their credit, they clawed back and to get a 2-2 draw with 2 away goals going into the second leg, which they will have at home, which is at Wembley, which in non-league play has served them well. Questionable.
Well, actually, this entire season they've been fine at Wembley, but like before this season, it was horrible for them at
The
Wembley. I
first, the
don't.
first, the
They
first
got
four,
what 2
the first
draws
three or
at
four,
Wembley.
the first 3 or 4 games were bad for them. Maybe that's it. Maybe
Yeah,
I still remember that and discussing that. But so yeah, that I agree with you. I think that should be a really really interesting tie. What do you expect? Like, what give like a quick prediction? What do you think will happen in the second leg?
I fully now, after watching that, support Tottenham. Like in terms of going forward, I think Tottenham will definitely handle this tie. I think they'll come out more ready than Juventus after the last game, but also kind of with the momentum. They'll be at home.
Yeah,
But I think they'll, yeah,
home
I
as
think they'll
far as
come
home
out.
gets.
I think they'll come out. I think they'll get a quick goal. Like I think they'll get a goal within the first 25 minutes or so, and I think that will calm everything down for them. I think they have the better talent, especially since they're younger. A lot of Juventus's talent, granted, they have like Higuain's and Dybal's and whatnot, but a lot of their talent is older. Unfortunately, I think this is where Buffon's last hope at a Champions League ends. But I just don't think Juventus still pushing really hard in a title race too. I think it's going to be too much for them.
Yeah, actually, I was just about to bring that up. We have kind of poised to talk about the Serie A title race because it's the only title race that's currently worth talking about. Tragically, but Napoli's still in first. All the other teams have kind of fallen off, and it's a two-leg race between Napoli and Juventus. And when I checked yesterday, they were only a point apart. I didn't look at the goal differential. I just know Napoli was still in first.
Juventus has 7 higher, but
7 higher. Okay.
yeah, it's like plus 40 to plus 47 or something like
Oh
that.
wow, only plus 40. What chumps? Anyway,
Yeah.
so where do you think this puts both of those teams? If we haven't quite mentioned, but Napoli on the show we were discussing this beforehand. Napoli falls out of the Europa League after falling out of the Champions League and performing well below what we were expecting. They fall out of the Europa League against Leipzig. So against another
They
Champions League
de-
team.
they definitely got a very difficult draw.
Yeah, they got a
But they
difficult
definitely
draw,
should have gone through.
and they had a poor performance in the first leg of that Europa League draw, and then the second one they played much better, but just because of the away goals, the tie into 3-3. But Leipzig, I keep drawing a blank on their name every time I go to say it, but they had the 3 away goals and so they go through. Where do you think that puts Napoli? If Juventus wins against Tottenham, which I honestly don't expect. I'm much like you. I'm expecting them to do better, or for them to fall to Tottenham. I expect Tottenham to get a few goals and at least one goal, and then it make it very difficult for Juventus to continue in the Champions League. But do you think that Napoli has an upper hand now?
Oh, for absolutely sure. Like even if we're going with what we're saying and Juventus gets knocked out, they only end up with like one more Europe game in Europe. Napoli will already out of Europe. They'll have a little advantage for a week or two if Juventus does get knocked out. They very much are still alive, but I think the big point and the biggest thing that's going to help Napoli is they definitely have to feel like they have something to prove now. I feel like even since the Champions League began, they threw all of their eggs in the league basket. I think that's why we saw such shoddy, really, performances from them in the Champions League. I think they've just been more focused on the league, which in the Serie A, I think you really have to be. And I think that is probably their biggest strategy because nothing is going to make players want to come to Napoli more, build fan interest and anything else than knocking off the Juventus streak. So I think that is probably the best idea for them in the long run. And I think, especially now that they have really nothing else to look to, I put my favoring, I guess, in Napoli to squeak out the title. I think they're only going to get it. I think it's going to come down to the last day, and I think they're only going to get the title by maybe 2 points, I would say. They play Juventus in Turin on the 22nd of April, I think, so kind of late in the season.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that's interesting. I didn't know. I was going to actually ask if you happen to know the date of when they were playing each other because I knew they had one more attempt at each other. But
I think there's like 4 or 5 games after.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously, hopefully we'll be able to do this more and we'll be able to keep close tabs on that title race. So
Hopefully, I
what
can find a better room to shoot this in as well. I apologize for the street noise and the orb of light above my head. But
I don't hear any street noise, but I do see that you have a good idea like constantly. Um, So going on to other ties that those other draws, we've kind of discussed the blowouts, the ones that were won, what we kind of expect moving forward. There's one tie that I thought was unfair. Actually, was the Barcelona Chelsea tie. I thought Chelsea did wonderfully well in that first leg, and I was incredibly, almost heartbroken, as hard as that is to be. But it was sad. They went out and they played a very, very good technical and just scheme
they
approach to
they
play.
outplayed Barcelona
Yeah,
in almost every facet.
yeah. So Barcelona, I mean, you still look at the stats, and Barcelona still, of course, still had the possession and everything like that. But then you look at expected goals, you look at anything else. Barcelona had no chances, and really the only chance that they had, they were gifted. It was an errant pass, I think, from Christensen.
Christensen, yep.
Which I
Trust me, I
actually,
remembered who it is.
uh, um,
As
but
much
that,
as
and
as much as I personally dislike Chelsea, and it almost pains me to say they definitely deserve the win here.
yeah.
I
What do
would
you with
say
the?
that I would
Oh,
say that it's definitely like it wasn't far enough apart that a draw is like horribly unfair to Chelsea. I think Barcelona were definitely in the game. It wasn't a whitewash and just like, it's not like one of those games where one team has like 27 shots and hits the post every time or has a David De Gea goal against them.
yeah.
But
Which we will
yeah, I
discuss.
think yeah, but I think Chelsea definitely deserved the win here. The number one thing that really irritates me about this, and I'm going to become Tommy Kokas for a second, is the fact that almost every media source was going off about like Messi being the GOAT and stuff and just getting it done when it mattered, and he was like really gifted the opportunity and
Yeah,
scored from like 4 yards, or I think it was like 8 yards out, but
yeah,
still.
yeah. And, I actually, poor Tommy. Maybe we can convince him one of these times to give a shot at this sort of Skype call show. But
We
he
could
he
barely
was.
get him to come to the normal show.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said maybe. But to kind of, I guess, be his voice since he's not here. I'm looking at stats of when Messi has, or when Barcelona has come out and fallen out of the Champions League. Messi has underperformed almost every single time. You know, now, so I kind of agree with you. There's a lot of hype around it that sometimes doesn't really need to be there. Because I mean, especially in this, he was like that. I might have been able to finish that personally,
You
maybe.
definitely would have. I'm putting faith in you,
It
Devin.
was it
You
was
were
on my it
definitely
was
putting
on
that
my
away.
left foot, so it's a
Me, I'm
bit.
hitting I'm hitting the fan in the third row, but I definitely think you're putting that away.
Um, but yeah, so moving forward, do you expect Chelsea to be able to scrape out anything once they go back to the
I
camp
think the
the Camp Nou?
I think the best Chelsea's going to get at the Camp Nou is extra time. I see Barca having the legs to outlast Chelsea here. As good as Chelsea has played, they still have a little bit of internal issues going on with Conte and just the team in general. But I think Barcelona, all in all, are the better team. And they're going to be in one of the toughest stadiums to play in, especially it'll be a Champions League game against Chelsea. Fans will turn out. It'll be well over 100,000 people probably there. So I don't see Chelsea getting it done, especially if they continue to play a relatively young back line.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so then I guess we can kind of move on then to I agree with your assessment, but we can kind of move on to one of the things you want to talk about, and that's your team, uh,
Ugh.
Man United. Just personally, forget the fact that we're trying to act as pundits here and kind of analyze it. How do you feel as a pure, just young, ignorant, and foolish fan?
The supporter in me wants to say that this is kind of like there is nothing wrong that we're getting the short end of the stick, but we're not. That there's definitely problems within this team. And now I know there's a lot of fans, especially from other teams, but a lot of people in general look at this, go, this is a nothing issue. You're second. Why are you complaining? But we're number one. It's Manchester United. There's different expectations. Like if Swansea were in second, you wouldn't be complaining no matter what your form was like.
Oh yeah, no,
But
I wouldn't have, not a chance.
Yeah,
not a chance.
But Manchester United's a
we
different
could have
expectation.
the scrappiest games you can imagine. Like there's like
I don't know. I'm
five
starting to
there's five
experience
red
those
cards
games.
for each team, and we're down to like playing 6 aside, and I wouldn't care. I really wouldn't. You're right.
You joke, but there was actually a French league game canceled or suspended. Brazilian, yeah. Brazilian, yeah.
That's what made me think of it. So
yeah, 5 red cards for the home team. Game suspended in like the 84th minute after a brawl. But yeah, no. As far as Man U, I think the biggest frustration is that we're in second, but we're so far off the title that it feels like we might as well be in 13th.
Right. But that's everyone this year.
Yeah. It's not just us, but the fact that we're supposed to be the biggest challengers. Like we were talking about at the beginning of the year, even in the beginning of the year when it was already 7 games in, and we're like, this is City's to lose. We thought Man U was going to be right there, and now the gap is insurmountable. I mean, mathematically it's not, but it's insurmountable.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can't score is the biggest frustration, and it's been the reason why I'm putting I put the topic on here to talk about, and the reason why I think this is really becoming an issue is we've been talking about this for 5 years now. Under Louis van Gaal, it was always the fans screaming attack, and now we're at this point again. We have Jose Mourinho now. Granted, he's a very pragmatic, very defensive manager, but when you look at the wealth of attacking options we have, even with the style Jose Mourinho is playing, we can't get goals, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
To the point where I literally sat in class yesterday and like kind of put a United lineup on the field and just kind of sat there and like stared at it for a little bit and went, well, how come this team doesn't get goals?
Yeah.
I can understand us leaking goals because our back line really needs work, but kept a clean sheet, and yes, that's because of David De Gea. Yeah. We should score goals, and a lot of the blame, I think, is being unfairly put on Pogba right now, which is really starting to irritate me. Mm-hmm. There's been so many, because reportedly he's had the row, if you will, with Mourinho. Yeah. And there's a lot of people now kind of calling for one of the two to leave, and as a supporter, I would prefer to see Mourinho go. And honestly, as an objective pundit, I think the manager should be the one to go in this case either way. Because objectively and as a fan, I don't think Pogba is the issue. I think it's just the style of play that's not working. Right. When I look at Man U, the biggest thing I notice is we have no real identity going forward, which is why we don't score goals. Yeah. We rely on a lot of individual players, and the problem is our individual players.
Lingard to have the moment of brilliance that I guess someone saw in him a long time ago.
The fact that we have a bunch of really good players trying to play as individuals and not being quite good enough to be those individuals. Like Pogba, he's been brilliant. He's brilliant on the ball, but he's been being pushed to be too defensive. Like he's being tried to be played defensive, and he's not a defensive player. But he's also not a goal scorer. So we're not going to get the goals from him. Alexis Sanchez, I honestly didn't really expect. This is kind of what I thought was going to happen with Alexis Sanchez. I honestly didn't even want him. I just didn't want City to have him, so I guess I'll take him. Because I didn't think he was our problem. I mostly just think that we didn't need him. That wasn't our issue. Martial was doing fantastically on the left side of the field. Yeah. He was really starting to come in. He was on fantastic form, and now we have to push Alexis Sanchez there because you can't spend the money on this man and not put him in. So
Right.
now Martial's being thrown out to the right. He's not playing as well. I think we need to drop Alexis, honestly. And we need to kind of have a more consistent 11. I think that's the two keys are we need to develop a team identity going forward, like a game plan, and play as a team going forward, and then play the same 11 consistently.
That honestly, so from moving from there, what do you think of the tie then with Sevilla? Moving to Champions League. We kind of talked about it, overarching problems with Man United because of the Champions League tie. So what do you think will happen? I know you kind of covered it, but explicitly, what do you think?
I think this is going to be I think we're going to see the same kind of game. I don't think De Gea can keep a clean sheet again like that. I love the man to death, and I think he is absolutely the best goalkeeper in the world at the moment. But
Hands down.
you can only face so many shots. If he faces another 25 shots in the next game, that's 50 shots, and no one is saving 50. Well, he didn't have to save, but you get the point.
Yeah.
Nobody's facing 50 shots in a row and not giving up a goal. And I expect that sort of game again. I expect it to be one goal in it, and whoever gets that goal will win. And it very well might be Sevilla if we come out and play the same way. And all credit to Sevilla. They played United the way they needed to play United, and they actually deserve to win that game. If, again, they weren't playing against David De Gea. Our back line, non-existent, but we knew that going in. So United has to find a way to get goals, and if not, I believe Sevilla is going to win the tie 1-0 second leg.
All right. So we've kind of covered pretty much. I'm sure we left out one or two ties in the Champions League into all those teams that maybe we have. Do you want to give
the biggest one, but that's okay.
What happened?
We didn't really discuss Real Madrid and PSG, but that's fine.
I mean, we did. We covered it. We talked about the fact
I mean, there's not much to be said about the game in terms of the game. Kind of like it wasn't full of any kind of controversy or anything. So
yeah, there was.
I think. I mean, it's fair.
There always was. There was like cries for handballs and unfair rulings by referees, and Real Madrid being gifted things. But we'll see how the second leg goes. But I kind of agree with you. There wasn't any like tactical masterclass performed by either manager, and there wasn't like a particularly brilliant game by a single player. If anything, we could say maybe Neymar didn't, I guess, live up to what maybe we were expecting.
Neymar hasn't quite had the Ronaldo or Messi game, basically. He hasn't shown that he is deserving of being, kind of heralded as the third best player in the world. He hasn't taken over a game. And I don't necessarily think he's that kind of player. That's why I think PSG needs more pieces. But I definitely think PSG is a much better team, obviously, with Neymar. It's hard to be a worse team with Neymar. But it appears Barcelona kind of looks like they're a little bit better without him when they play up to snuff, if you will. They've also at times looked very much worse without.
Yeah. So then I guess going from here, so we have now, I think, discussed all the ties, have we not?
Yes, we have.
We've discussed them all. We're satisfied with the Champions League tie discussion.
Unless there's anything else you want to add.
No, I'm pretty much tapped out. I think that's all I know about it right now. It was really difficult. It was a hectic week. It was hard to watch and do work at the same time. So
Champions League, FA Cup, everything happening.
Yeah, everything. I watched. We didn't even cover the Europa League, but I watched a lot of the Europa League.
No.
Okay. No, we're not. No.
No, but I'm saying no. Yeah. No, I didn't watch any of the Europa League either because I can't watch what's called over here. I can't watch either.
Yeah, I got a chance to watch that, but maybe that'll be. We'll probably discuss that, and once we get to the round of 16, it whittles down a little bit in the Europa League. We'll discuss that. But so now we're kind of jump to summer transfers, kind of some of the rumors that are already floating around, maybe some things that we think should happen. And I just want to talk about one of the things, and this was, I kind of see where you're coming from on this one already. You proposed that Lacazette should leave Arsenal even though he just arrived the past summer. I think that's for pretty obvious reasons. When Arsenal goes and buys another striker that's a similar style to him, just faster
and better. Sorry, like I said, Aubameyang is a better player.
Yeah.
Except maybe at like strength, but
yeah. So where do you think he should go then? I feel like the reasons he should leave are self-explanatory to most people, but where do you think he should go then? Do you think he should go back to Lyon?
I think a move back to Lyon seems unlikely. Just in terms of how often do we really see players go back to the clubs they were at before? I mean, sometimes you do, but not always. And I don't think Lyon necessarily need him, or even I don't think they really have the ability to bring him back. I mean, think about they don't have the same amount of money. And I don't think Lacazette will cost as much as from Arsenal as he did going to Arsenal. But I don't think Lyon has that money anymore. I mean, they went out and got Memphis and whatnot. But I think the biggest, well, I mean, they got Memphis before him, but they're kind of getting the money back when they got rid of Lacazette. But I think he really needs to go kind of down the path that Aubameyang was originally on. When I talk about going from he shouldn't have gone to Arsenal, but he should have stayed at a Dortmund, Lyon or a Dortmund type club. So he needs to go back to that. I don't think Lacazette is good enough to play for necessarily a top 6 club in England or like a Barcelona or Real Madrid or even Atletico, anything like that. So I could definitely see him making a home in the Bundesliga or the French, going back to the French league, maybe Monaco, maybe. I mean, now that Mbappe has completely his switch has been confirmed now after PSG avoided relegation. I love transfer clauses, but so Monaco's got the money lying around. Yeah, that's what it was. The clause
I didn't even know about that. That's hilarious.
Yep. Yeah, but transfer was delayed until PSG stayed up. What a way to get around financial fair play. But anyways, that's its own discussion.
Oh my
yeah, so I definitely think the way he is as a player, we saw Aubameyang have that kind of success in the Bundesliga. We've seen players like even Leon Bailey, and I mean, granted, he's more of a winger, but players like Modeste and Sergei Gnabry.
Even Firmino at
Hoffenheim, yeah.
At Hoffenheim did very well and ended up going to Liverpool after kind of following that path of staying at a smaller and I mean, honestly, the Bundesliga, I think, is a wonderful league for cultivating strikers because finishing.
I think the Bundesliga is a wonderful league, full stop.
Yeah,
it's honestly my favorite league to watch. Sorry, Premier League, but Premier League gets really drab sometimes.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I think just from this standpoint, I think for strikers, the Bundesliga is a wonderful place to go just because you see so many strikers kind of grow in that league. They get enough touches, they get enough goals, they get enough confidence, and they can go from there. So yeah, I would agree with you. I think that would probably be a wise move for him. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, I think he won't go to Dortmund, I don't think, but I think he needs to definitely go to a smaller club than where he's at. I don't think he needs to go to, like Hanover 96, but I think if he goes to, the Bayer Leverkusen's, Leipzig's, maybe to Marseille, those kinds of teams, I think that's where he'd be able to have his best success probably for all of his career. I don't think he's a big club player.
All right, so let's just kind of move on. We'll try to get through these semi-quick here, these other transfer rumors. So one of them is Kroos to Man United. Do you put any stock in this or not?
In terms of, do I think it's going to happen?
No.
Not at all. Real Madrid would be insane to let him go, no matter how much we offer. Although there are, of course, the rumors of basically De Gea Kroos switch, maybe some money involved. Man U would be completely insane to give up literally anything for David De Gea. So it works both ways.
So I don't think it's likely. You just don't see it.
Yeah, happening. I don't see it happening. I would say the number one thing Man U needs, though, is a player, maybe not like Kroos, but definitely another holding midfielder. Herrera just isn't quite physically big enough to hold that role. Pogba isn't that kind of player. We definitely need another Matic, basically. If I could clone that man, we'd be fine.
All right, so moving on to another one. Hazard to Real Madrid. Kind of all these teams going to and from Real Madrid. Now Hazard has been linked with them before. He's been linked with other big clubs. Nothing has happened for a few years now. Do you think this summer will be like a change, or do you also expect this to kind of just be one of those rumors that is reoccurring and happens every transfer window, but nothing ever comes of it?
We, as you said, we've been thinking about this for a while in terms of this has been on the radar for a while. I think that what let me restart that thought. Originally, when I was first hearing about this and really thinking about it, because we've heard more rumors as we get closer to summer and heard more about it this past week or so, and I thought at first, absolutely no way. I don't see Hazard leaving, but the more things seem to deteriorate at Chelsea,
yeah, the more
I
likely
think
it's become.
more likely he is to move. And let's be honest, most players in the world are not going to turn down Real Madrid if they knock on the door if they do not like their current situation.
Yeah.
So I think it'll have to come down to what Chelsea's willing to do. And I think at the end of the day, I know Roman Abramovich loves money. So I think if he gets a lot of money for Hazard, he would certainly have no problem saying no. I think it's going to come down to what Hazard wants to do specifically, not what the teams want.
Okay. All right. So then what about Zlatan to LA Galaxy, another one of those legends being brought into the MLS? Do you think it will be this summer? I mean, I noticed that you and your thoughts scribbled down that might not be this summer. So are you assuming that he's held on to until the winter transfer window about a year from now? Or what?
No, I think it'll definitely be in the summer. I think terms will be agreed before then. I think this is almost guaranteed to happen.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Zlatan just really did not come to Man U at a great time, and the reason I say unfortunately is anybody who knows me knows that I love Zlatan Ibrahimovic, literally my favorite player in the world. So I mean, nice to have him at your favorite club for a while. I don't think he was a good fit here, and I want him to come back. I want him to play for Man U. I want him to play again before he leaves in the summer. But I think he'll definitely be gone. I think it makes a lot of sense for him. He's not going to get what he needs at Man U. It will be the only club he's been to and not won the league, which will be upsetting for him.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't think it's the right situation for him. Go get paid, basically. And also, I'm greedy, and I want him to play in America so I can go see him. So,
All right. So then let's kind of run down the ranks of Man United. Then Pogba, we were discussing that there's some problems. Reports that he got into a row with Jose Mourinho. Do you believe that he will leave, or do you think Mourinho will leave, or do you think no one is leaving? What are your thoughts on Pogba's transfer potential situation? Because again, he's another guy that's only been there for this will be his second year. That's a rather quick turnaround for someone that was the most expensive player at the time, and that has obviously since changed a lot, but still.
I think no one's leaving right now in terms of Mo and Pog, but I think that I don't think Pogba should leave. But if things don't change, if things are still this way at the end of the season, unfortunately, I think that's something that could happen. I think Man U is definitely going to want to keep a world-class manager around after having to deal with David Moyes and Louis van Gaal. So I think they will unfortunately use Pogba as a sacrificial lamb and show that they support Mourinho. But then I think Mourinho doesn't doesn't challenge for the title in terms of being there on the last day competitive. Not what we're seeing now. Technically, yes, we're challenging for the title being in second. I think Mourinho could be out as well. What do you like? What do you think about that? Because obviously I'm a Man U fan here.
You're a bit biased, yeah. Honestly, it just makes me really. in a way, there's these teams like Man United who have had their golden age kind of go and has passed now when they had Sir Alex Ferguson and Ronaldo and Wayne Rooney was in his prime, and you just had this high flying team that just was captured the hearts of people that watched it, and I think it's almost tragic because Mourinho is a wonderful manager, but he's a very defensive manager. I think anyone that watches him can agree on that. Even when he was with Chelsea and they won it 3 years ago, we all watched them score goals at the beginning of the year, and everyone's like, "Wait, are we sure this is the right team?" You know,
Are you sure this is Mourinho?
yeah. Or even when Man United was doing that earlier in the year, this year we were again going like, "Wait a second, this doesn't seem right." So I think I almost, as a fan of the sport, would like to see Mourinho go to another club. I understand that he's a world-class manager. I understand that he is capable of winning people titles, but I think just his general approach to the game is probably better fit for remember when he was at Inter and he had that wonderful Champions League run, and I think that he is better suited in maybe a league that's more tactical in the way that they approach their games. Such as,
I think he was suited for the Premier League, but I think the Premier League's changed. I don't think it's as quite, kind of hard-nosed, hard-hitting as it used to be. I think it's in an effort to try to make themselves better in Europe. I think all of the Premier League is going to be influenced by the best teams that are in it. And I think the bigger teams outside of Manchester United are trying to kind of play more European, if you will.
Yeah,
and I think that's where United's going wrong.
Yeah, I think, and like I was just saying, I think you can see that with teams like Tottenham and Arsenal. Of course, have always had that ticky-tacky football that, when they do it correctly, they've had that ability. Manchester City obviously is getting that down. With a mixture of pace and counter-attacking that you see from maybe the Bundesliga more, or you see just in the Premier League, the sort of physicality that they can bring with it. But I would agree with you. So I honestly just, something about it doesn't seem right to me, Mourinho at Man United right now. I'm not sure what it is.
Hasn't seemed right to me since the beginning, but...
But it could also just be the fact that, we look at it and go, Man United actually has not had a bad year. Like, if this was any other year in the history of the Premier League, they would be in a title race hands down. Like, they might even be winning it. It's just the fact that Man City has come out and just run away with the entire thing. So maybe just given circumstance, it feels worse than it actually is. And maybe if the time was a bit different, or just a scenario is different, maybe we wouldn't even have this discussion. We'd be like, oh, are they going to win the title? Or what can you do? These are the big matchups. But right now we're discussing it's not good enough simply because it's not the best. So I'm not actually 100% sure. It'll be interesting to see what happens towards the end of the season if they can continue to get through the Champions League, and I think we'll be able to make better judgments from there.
Do you think if things kind of go stagnant, if we get knocked out by Sevilla or then in the next round, and things don't really change in the league, we're still kind of on the same form, if you will. Mm-hmm. Do you see Pogba out in the summer? Do you think that is a route Ed Woodward and the boys would go?
I really don't, though, just simply because he's only been there for 2 years. Like, where would he go? I mean,
Juventus.
He would go back to Juventus, you think?
That's the team most likely, I think, to pick him up. But, I mean, obviously Real Madrid and Barcelona would want him, but I don't see him fitting in. I think the only way he fits in at Real is if Cruz leaves. The only way, but then he'd have to have a more defensive role, which he has shown to not be able to play. I don't think he fits in Barcelona. I think Juventus is a place that he knows how to play at, and I think is a place he can have proven success there, and he's definitely. I think he is a better player than when he left Juventus. I think he still has developed. I think he's just not being used right, and the team around him were not playing well enough to really make him shine. So I think if he went back to Juventus, it would be only great things. So I think Juventus would be the number one team that could pick him up.
All right. So I'm kind of still on the fence about it. I don't think it'll happen. So let's just kind of leave that for now. because I feel like we could keep going. So here's some other ones real quick. I'm just going to give two of them to you real quick. Rojo to PSG and Lascelles, right? Lascelles is how I would say it. Lascelles to Chelsea. Out of these two, which do you think is more likely? And out of these two, which one do you think is the worst move?
Well, I mean, in a way, like both those questions have the same answer. I think Rojo to PSG is far less likely because I think Rojo is viewed by PSG as he's viewed by, I know, the shared belief between you and I that Rojo is kind of garbage. So I don't see PSG, a team the caliber of PSG, signing a center back who doesn't start for us. That seems unlikely. Now I know they need defensive depth. Mm-hmm. But I don't think Rojo would be the direction they go in. He's not that young either. I feel like if you're a PSG type team, you kind of want a younger defender.
A younger defender that you can kind of cultivate as your defenders get older. I understand.
And Lascelles to Chelsea is something I just learned about today, so I want to throw it on there as kind of a swerve, not one of the bigger names we're talking about. But he's 24. If Newcastle, I don't think Newcastle's not in any danger of going down, but if they're not going to be up the table as we may have thought they would be, I could obviously see Lascelles wanting to move. I think Chelsea are really good at getting young talent and wasting it and having it go to flourish to other teams.
Batshuayi.
So, Batshuayi, Lukaku, De Bruyne, the list goes on and on and on.
Well, I just happen to say Batshuayi because he's been killing it for Dortmund since he got there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In a bit of random, unrelated FIFA news, I have his ones to watch card. I managed to pack it, so I'm really happy about that. But tangent.
You digress.
But I think this is a move that very well could happen. I mean, Newcastle will take money. They're very famous for their really kind of awful owner, Mike Ashley, who's really good at accepting money and really bad at spending it. Kind of like Arsenal, but whatever. I think this is a move that very well could happen. I find it a very interesting move as far as I don't know where Newcastle would find a replacement.
I guess that's for them to worry about, though. Maybe they have some youth prospects we don't know about.
Well, I mean, I feel like that kind of plays into the sell, though. Would they, when you're looking at a smaller team, are they going to sell if they don't? Are they going to sell him if they don't think they have a replacement?
All right, so just for that, we're moving on. I'm not even.
I'm surprised it took me that long to come up with that.
All right, I'm being for real. We're moving on. All right, so on to our. That was supposed to be a semi-quick fire, and I guess given how much time we spent on everything else, that was kind of quick. But this should be the quickest of quick fires, Tom. So I'm just going to read them off to you, and I want you to tell me what you think. So the USSF presidential election, no quotation marks soccer guy elected.
To clarify what that means is the candidate that won, Carlos Cordero. He's a businessman. He was vice president to Gawadi in the USSF, but none of the people that we as fans originally really, really wanted to see when the candidates were first kind of announced, the Eric Winaldas, the Kyle Martino, I just momentarily forgot his name, people like that, or even Hope Solo, could be a soccer girl. Even Hope Solo, we really, wanted
to see a fan of the sport.
Yeah.
We wanted
or not even that. Someone who understood what they went through.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this was a really long process. They went to multiple rounds, past it because they couldn't get the right number of votes. But Cordero won over the Athletes Council. That's what ended up swaying the vote at the end. So I guess I kind of have to trust the Athletes Council on this. If we're going to say, if as a fan I want to look at this and go, I want the athletes represented, I wanted a former athlete in there, I kind of have to go with, well, if the Athletes Council accepts them, then I guess I got to go with that.
You would think the athletes would know best what is best for the athletes. So I mean, I agree with that. I think this will be very interesting. I'm just glad something happened, I guess.
Something has changed, which is important.
Something has changed, and it remains to be seen whether that is good or bad, or just kind of meandering somewhere in the middle.
Correct me if I'm wrong. We still have an open manager position as well. I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty sure technically it's still Bruce Arena.
I think so. I think we do.
He's leaving. Yeah, but he was staying just until we found somebody. Actually, I think he technically already resigned. So I think
so we do still have that.
Yeah. It's not like we're playing any meaningful games anymore. So
yeah, tragically. So then, moving on. Last year we had a lot of legends of the game retire. Right, we had Philip Lahm retire. I think Francisco Totti retired last year as well. I mean, I think
Xabi Alonso.
Yeah, I was just trying to remember all of them because there was
Pirlo.
Yeah, there it goes.
Earlier in this year, but
yeah. So do you think obviously maybe not as many big names, because it's rare to see that many big names go out at the same time. It's like they all called each other up and were like, "Are you done?" And they're like, "Yeah, I'm done." And they just like all decided to walk away at that point.
Well, half of them were in the MLS, mate. I mean,
yeah. Maybe it was time.
Because we forgot about Gerrard and Lampard as well.
Yeah, well, I couldn't remember if that was a year, like 2 years ago, or if this was that last year.
I think Gerrard was 2 years ago. Lampard was last year, I think.
Yeah, so I couldn't quite remember, so I didn't want to throw their names in there. But so do you have any possible retirement candidates? Juventus's back line is getting old. Chiellini, who's not there anymore, is he?
No, that's Panucci. Panucci left. Chiellini's still
left.
there.
I'd get them like they're the same person to me. They're the same person. I can't.
They both ended E.
I can't differentiate between
an I, but yeah, the E sound. I mean, obviously Buffon. That's not even a candidate for retirement. He will be retired. I think we might see some I think we'll see a lot of kind of lesser players, if you will, retire this year. I expect to see people like my boy Peter Crouch to take his stilt legs off the pitch for the last time. I expect a lot of
anatomy is an enigma to me. I don't understand how you can be that tall and weigh so little. But
and also, I love that heading is not even the thing he's best at. He's really good at volleys for some reason. But anyways,
such is life.
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of more players like that retiring. I kind of expect a lot of older players from the Premier League to be on the way out, especially since there's been this influx of youth into the Premier League in the past couple of seasons, and we're seeing really young players starting to take over, Gabriel Jesus, the Marcus Rashfords, and Martial. Even the young players are really starting to make a stamp on the Premier League and in the world in general. I mean, Mbappe, we talked about, £166 million transfer for a teenager, but I think we'll see a lot more players like that. The only other big name, not even in terms of being a superstar, but in terms of being a big name, I could see is John Terry. He's basically retired. Plays for Villa now, but
they're in second. They're in second in the championship. Don't count him out yet. He could just come back to the Premier League.
Yeah,
he could come.
But Man U's second in the Premier League.
John Terry could be back in the Premier League.
I doubt it. I bet he'll retire. You expect him to play against Chelsea?
Yes, I do.
I mean, it's not like he played for Chelsea at the end, anyways. But
yeah, I do. I expect Villa to come back and him to play one more season in the Premier League, and then he'll retire.
If they get promoted, because I think they'll end up in the playoff. So who knows? If they get promoted, then yeah, I guess
it won't happen. It won't happen. Nope, they're coming through straight through. They're not in the playoff.
Well, one team we basically know is through is Wolverhampton or Wolves. They're basically being city of the championship. They're 16 points clear.
Yeah, they are. I've been keeping tabs on it a little bit.
Yeah.
As it gets closer.
Let's hope it's not really disappointing and they don't come up and then immediately go down.
Yeah, fingers crossed that somebody stays up. So yeah, I guess any other retirement options you think?
There's a couple of names that I can think of, but I think it'd be really surprising if they hung up the boots this soon. Like Robin.
True.
He just retired from international. Same with the players like Chiellini, players who just retired from international. That
It's too
probably
early
have
for
one or
them to
two.
just retire.
Yeah, yeah,
Retire.
that maybe have 1 or 2 seasons really left in them, but you never know. They could hang it up early.
Yeah.
Um, you know, rather go out being good instead of being just there, if you will.
Yeah. Um, all right. Well, I think that's about it for the show. I think this. I mean, I'm still getting used to my new role, where apparently I was told I'm supposed to be the person anchoring. So that was interesting. And hopefully we'll figure out some more kinks and we can use some better lighting and better hair, so you don't have to wear a
Yeah,
hat. But props to it for keeping the light somewhat blocked.
yeah. It also became like 50% about trying to block the light as well.
Right.
So
But yeah, I think that's all for Send Them Off for this week, and hopefully we'll be back a lot sooner than this hiatus that we took recently. And we'll see you next time.